Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Let me welcome you to the fourth of our sessions on contemporary Slovenian architecture. I'm happy to welcome today our dear guest, Lena Krušec from Krušec Architekti. Hi, Lena. Nice to have you here with us.
Hello. Hi.
The Krušec Architekti belongs to one of the most important and influential Slovenian architecture office of today. They have in their portfolio lots of striking architectural work, starting with public spaces through important public buildings and facilities, and perhaps ending with important and interesting housing complexes. One of them, by the way, was realized also in Bratislava. It was finished 1 year ago. Verejných is the name of the complex. And the other one recently constructed also in Prague, the Waltrovka complex. So Lena is really very familiar with our context. Before I leave the floor to Lena, I would like to say that our project, Reflections on Architecture, was made possible through the financial support of the Slovak Arts Council. So, dear Lena, now the floor is yours. We are looking very much forward to your presentation, and thank you for spending the evening with us. Yeah, even if it's not really by person and only via internet.
Oh, Henrietta, thank you for the nice introductions, and thank you for having me. As you've heard, I'm the co-founder of ARHITEKTURA KRUŠEC with my husband, Tomasz. We are actually a small office situated in Ljubljana, and beside me and Tomasz, there are 5 to 8 employees. It depends on what kind of project we are working on. Unfortunately, we cannot meet in Bratislava, in the city I really like and which I often visited in the past 8 years. But we are still lucky to have the help of technology and can make it work in this way. So today, I will present 8 projects we have done in the past 5 years. I will now start to share the screen. I hope everything can be seen.
Yeah, it works great. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll start my lecture with a photo of the VIP Pavilion. This building serves as a training center for the Slovenian Football Association. Through this project, I will also explain how we deal with site-specific conditions, how we deal with materials and construction generally. One of the most important things that we are interested in while working on a certain project is how the building is connected to the ground, how it fits into the landscape. Actually, I don't think there is a universal answer to that question. Actually, I believe each site requires different approach to the problem. In the case of the VIP Pavilion, we were faced with a very specific site inside one of the most protected historical parks in Slovenia. It's a park surrounding the Brdo Castle, which you can see here, which serves as a location for the government protocol ceremonies. The existing site, which is the part of the park, was occupied by a former hippodrome, which was never really in use. Sorry. This is the hippodrome, and there are the horse stables. On the west side of the existing hippodrome, there was approximately 3 meters high mount, a green artificial slope with tribunes for the audience. We used the same principle of the green slope to hide most of the service area underground. In that way, approximately 1,500 square meters of utilities, wardrobes, boiler rooms, storages, and fitness and saunas were hidden underground. The only visible building is the white concrete block which stands on the top of the green mound. The idea of hiding most of the service area underground is also visible in floor plans. You can see the ratio between surfaces above and underground. This is the layout of underground, where our utilities are hidden, and this is the layout above ground. There is a VIP lodge with a bar and public toilets. To solve a new architectural problem, we somehow continue the hierarchy in the landscape which existed long before we came there. This photo shows real life that our building enables. It shows the real aim of our work, and that is to frame the stories that will potentially happen inside or outside of our building. The pavilion is designed as a transparent frame which frames the surrounding nature. From the side of the football pitch, the view travels through the VIP pavilion towards the trees on the other side of the pavilion. This is a very important characteristic of the building. It allows nature to move seamlessly through the architectural intervention. This is a diagram where you can see there is continuity of landscape through architecture. And this continuity you can see here on this photo, and again on this one. From inside, the feeling of continuity is even stronger because of two glass walls which surround the viewer and allow him to see the nature on both sides of the pavilion. The feeling becomes even more intensive when the large glass wall is open. All right. Here we can see another framed view towards the surrounding nature. And you can see in this image is that the continuity of the landscape is also achieved through the reflection in glass facade. This is a photo of water reservoir which we saw somewhere in Portugal. We use such photos from our trips quite often. These are pictures from our past. These are images from our memory. They lie somewhere in our memory and wait for the right moment when they reappear again in another context to solve another problem. We were able to use this image to solve the problem of the entry to the VIP pavilion. The entrance with the entrance lobby is made like a cut in a green slope, as you can see here in this photo. The same way the water reservoir cuts into the sloping ground in the previous photo. Sometimes such vernacular primitive structures were made without architects, help us to solve much more sophisticated problems. Part of the project was also the headquarters building for Slovenian Football Association. I have just presented the VIP pavilion, which is here, and headquarters building lies just 100 meters to the north. The headquarters building was built on the site of existing horse stables. Because of the conservation regulations, we had to respect the exact dimensions and exact location of the former building. So the question was how to connect the building and the ground and how to make it land on this meadow. We realized that the only way to keep the meadow as intact as possible, we should design the new building as completely autonomous volume. We've always admired the way Irish farmhouses are incorporated in the nature. You can still see the same connection with nature in northeast parts of Slovenia. This is a typical vernacular house called Cimprača, and you can see there is no strict boundary in the ground between the landscape and the house. The green grass grows directly to the house. Nature envelops the house. With dear white plastered walls, houses are like crystals in the landscape. They look so natural, like they're a part of nature, as if they have been there forever. We wanted to achieve the same relationship between architecture and nature also with our building. So we took from nature just the piece of land where the building is standing, nothing more. We also raised the building from the ground by creating a gap between the grass and the concrete slab. You can see this gap in this photo. This solution makes the building look weightless, like it is floating above the meadow. On the other hand, we love to work with better known examples from the past. Actually, I think that it's impossible to understand the principles of the present without understanding what happened in the past and why. However, I'm never nostalgic about the past. I don't believe in copying the principles from the past periods. I just believe that acting in the present and building for the future is impossible without understanding the past. For us, one of the most powerful spaces created by light is the gallery colonnade made by Bernini at the St. Peter Square in Rome. Each time when I see this photo, I remember how Louis Kahn defined the birth of our profession. That was the moment when thick primitive walls were broken, and they were transformed into columns. A column and a column, he says, brings the light between. We could easily design the glass wall to the atrium without any constructional supports. We could make a borderless connection with the greenery outside the building. However, we wanted to have the border in the form of steel columns, which create the play of light and shadows on the terrazzo floor. The atrium presents the center of the building, which was achieved by rotating both floors, each of them in another direction. The ground floor is rotated towards the VIP pavilion, football pitches, and vernacular haystacks. This is the view from atrium in the underground, which overlooks the vernacular haystacks and the VIP pavilion in the background. While the first floor looks towards the mountain tops. And here is the view from inside towards the mountain tops. In this image, we can clearly see the rotation of the first floor in regard to the position of the ground floor. And another image which shows this rotation. This photo was taken from the terrace in the first floor. This is the ground floor plan, where you can see that offices are on the outer edge, and they are overlooking the surrounding landscape, while the common areas, like the main lobby and the corridors, are facing the atrium. This is the photo of entrance lobby. There is a reception desk and some lounge spaces for customers. And another photo of entrance lobby from other side and with the view towards the atrium. This is the main hall, which overlooks the landscape. And you can see the same principle on the first floor. Offices overlook towards the surrounding landscape, and common areas like library and lounge spaces and corridors are facing the atrium. This is the photo of the conference room in the first floor, which again overlooks the landscape. And another view from the same conference room, which again overlooks the landscape, the vernacular haystack, and the VIP pavilion in the background. I would like to end the presentation of these projects with a few more pictures. They show another reason why we used completely smooth exposed white concrete. The first reason is the contrast of the concrete with the green landscape. And the second has to do with shadows, which are created by the sun. They create a poetic atmosphere in the interior. We think that materials are not poetic by themselves. To discover their beauty, they have to be lit with natural light. And together, with proportions of the room, architectural space can become poetic in itself. The next project I would like to present is a housing estate in Bratislava called Primite. It is located in the former industrial area next to the railway. It has no vistas at all, therefore we wanted to create a rather introverted residential area that would incorporate plenty of green spaces within the estate and also give the residents utmost privacy. The urban design of the housing development features several smaller buildings arranged in a form of chessboard. This creates wider space between the buildings. A chessboard layout enables open views to apartments without looking at each other, and at the same time still provides appropriate density. Car parking is planned in the underground garage, while the roof of the garage is turned into a green area the residents can enjoy in. This is the site plan. Here you can see all 9 buildings and the green spaces in between. The individual buildings are staggered and as such underscore the impression of a smaller urban structure. We didn't want to design huge residential buildings that are so typical of the socialist residential architecture. Quite the opposite. We wanted the resident to have a different experience, and this image is representative of the impression smaller buildings leave when you walk through the area. A small number of flats are positioned on an individual circulation core, and flats face 2 sides, north and south. You can see we have 3 apartments per 1 circulation core. As you can see, the buildings are designed economically, the units are compact, and there are practically no corridors. You can imagine how are the investors. They want to have the best ratio between the sales area and the gross area they need to build. Here we can see the entrance into one of the buildings with green ramp in the background, which is actually the garage roof. The open spaces between the buildings flow seamlessly while the buildings are situated within islands planted with small plants. Low walls frame these islands and so create a clear divide between the private and the communal. As you can see again in this photo, there is a clear division between the public path and the space around the apartments. And another photo which shows the same idea. I have to say that landscape was done by the studio AKA from Ljubljana. The monochromatic facade is designed to contrast the soft lines of landscaping, which feels homely and comfortable and encourages socialization. And here is another photo which shows the contrast between the monochromatic facade and soft landscape. Moreover, the monochromatic facade functions as a neutral background for colorful objects or equipment that people will put on their balconies. In such a way, the building becomes an outdoor gallery of people's lives. For the same investor, we did another two projects in Prague. The first one is concluded, while the second one is still going on. Both projects are located within the former industrial area of the Waltroka factory, which used to produce airplane engines. This enormous residential building called A4 plays with the proportions of the metropolitan Prague. This one building functions as a small city in itself. This is the view from the southwest, and you can see that in the ground floor, which is dedicated to the public and houses various businesses. And this is the site plan, where in the inner courtyard, there is a playground for the children and private gardens for residents that have apartments in the ground floor. This photo was taken during the construction phase, and the building was not finished yet, but we can see low walls which divide the private from public. And those fences should be covered with bushes, but as I said, this was still in the construction phase. In similar way, we designed the landscape in project Primite in Bratislava. Here is another view from the south. With two rising volumes, with bigger flats, and with a base that houses a different type of smaller flats with balconies, the building structure creates a context for a socially diverse environment. So in a way, it becomes a small city in a big building. The raised towers are moved off-center to locations that allow the flats to receive the best light and at the same time cast as little shadow on the neighboring buildings as possible. These are two layouts, second floor and fifth floor. You can see there is a huge number of apartments per one floor. I think there are 24 apartments in lowest floor and 11 apartments in highest floor. The apartments in base this is this part of the building, are smaller and they have balconies, while the apartments in towers are bigger and they have loggias. Layouts are again very compact and rational. And here again, we had to achieve the best ratio between the sales area and the gross area the investor needs to build. This is another view from the west with the city square in front. Well, the square was not designed by us, but here you can also see these neighboring office buildings, which were the buildings of a former Waltroka factory, and they were renovated. Next is our project in Ptuj. With the project of marketplace in the city of Ptuj, we were suddenly faced with completely different context from what we were used to from our previous project. This is an urban area in the oldest city in Slovenia with an incredible medieval city center. Although the open space behind the Church of St. George seems to be self-evident these days, it was never intended to be a city square. Here you can see this is the Church of St. George. Here is the entrance to the church, and the square is actually behind the church. And our job was to design the square and the market. The city of Ptuj is a city of red roofs, as you can see in this image. The site I showed you in the previous photo behind the church was once the location of military barracks. Their brick roofs contributed to the recognizable image of Ptuj as a city of red roofs. As the military barracks were demolished, an empty area appeared, which became a city square that historically had never been there. Symbolically, the roof of the demolished building is returned to the city in the form of reddish pavement of the square. So the marketplace is paved with reddish terrazzo in the form of the former barracks, giving back to Ptuj what the destruction of the barracks took away. Two local materials were used to pave the square, the Drava River gravel paving and the Pohorje tonalite. The marketplace structure is made of red concrete and features distinctly horizontal geometry. The horizontal roof underscores the vertical of the church bell tower, and so it gives even more prominence to this city dominant. This is the ground floor layout. There are one shop, a bar, the covered market, and the public toilets. And in the underground, there are wardrobes, storage rooms, and other technical rooms. This image shows we can close the cover market when it is not operating. And here you can also see the viewing terrace above the market building. In similar way, most of the elements in the design of the Ptuj marketplace were the result of an analysis of the market's functionality and usability. All forums serve one purpose, and that is to create and support a living market. And this is also the idea behind the white amphitheater staircase, which you can see here. Again, another photo from different side of this amphitheater staircase. And again, from the other side. In this image, we can see the chairs that line the edge of the market. These are those chairs. And another photo of chairs at the market edge. And this is the photo of chairs under the trees. This is a specific part of the market where people are able to spend time sitting in the shade of the trees. This is not about the decoration of the market with special pavers. We were not interested in the paver's composition itself, which is often the theme in similar designs of space in Slovenia. We focused on the characteristic and the atmosphere. That can be achieved through paving, but also through other architectural interventions. This is another photo of a special ambient around the monument where people can sit and relax. Here you can see the whole square with cover market in the background, the open market, and other special ambience on the square or on the edge of the square. And another photo of a special ambient in the night. If we want that an area in the city or a market become interesting and pleasant for its users, it is not enough that we give the users a dynamic experience while they do their daily activities like buying vegetables at the market. We should also, or even primarily, create an atmosphere that invites people to stop, to sit down, and to use the space statically. For this purpose, we designed this urban chair. A bench is problematic. When just one person sits on it, other people tend to avoid sitting on it. And so the other part of the bench remains empty. The urban chair is an individualized seat that belongs to one person entirely. This allows people to sit one next to another even when they do not know each other and would never sit together on the bench. The chairs are mostly situated under the trees. They form different compositions, and this encourages interactions among the people. This is again the chair I'm talking about. It's very light and it's made using the least amounts of material with regard to its static requirements. The netting makes the chair transparent. This is an ordinary netting that is normally used for the shopping baskets and trolleys in stores. The same idea of minimizing waste was also behind the design of the house in Mingaš, where we recycled the wood we used for the pouring of the load-bearing construction. We then use it as a material inside of the house and also as a part of the facade. This is how we nicknamed the house the wooden house. Wood played an essential role in all stages of the construction. It was first used as formwork for the construction of the primary load-bearing concrete structure. In this way, the wooden formwork at the same time created the characteristic facade of the house. The imprint of the brushed boards used for the formwork with their distinct grooves creates a recognizable texture of the concrete facade. Again, the same diagram. The scrap wooden boards were later cleaned and used both in the execution of the non-transparent parts of the facade as well as other parts of the interior of the house. In this photo, you can see the concrete and the wooden facade. Inside the concrete shell, which is the only load-bearing structure of the building, everything is made of wood, floors, walls, and furniture. All this is suspended from the outer shell, supported by only by 4 elegant slopes, leaving the ground floor open and bright. You can see here these 4 slopes. Here you can see the concrete shell, which is the only load-bearing construction. and another view of load-bearing construction from inside. These cantilevers and the distance between the load-bearing walls presented a significant challenge in terms of statics. The image of finished building is a direct reflection of the characteristic structural design of the building. The construction of the house was carried out in reverse order from the usual process. Because at one moment the only element of the construction site was the outer shell of the building, the facade. It enclosed the empty interior of the house and directed our view towards the sky. At the same time we designed this house, we also traveled across Italy. We looked at the remains of the San Galgano church, where Andrzej Tarkowski filmed a part of his movie Nostalgia. We were fascinated by the space that is limited only by the outer walls and it's otherwise open to the sky and into the infinity. This is the diagram of double-height living room where the skylight windows brings in the natural light. The motif of the perceptual connection between the sky and the earth is also preserved in the finished house. The glass roof above the gallery and the living room frame the view towards the sky, and the glass walls on the facade point towards the surrounding landscape. This is again another photo of framed view towards the sky. Here we can see the ground floor layout, which is actually very simple. Here is the entrance lobby, the garage, and the living area with the kitchen, small storage, the dining area, the living area, and the small working office. And one storage, which you can enter from outside and from inside. There is a large covered terrace with outdoor kitchen. This is a photo of a kitchen where you can see that all interior parts are made from wood. And another photo of outdoor terrace. And this is first floor with the master bedroom and bathroom with sauna. And on the other side of this double-spaced, double-height living room, there are two kids' rooms, another bathroom, and utility room. This is the master bedroom with vaulted ceiling and the view from the master bedroom to the terrace and surrounding nature. And the last photo is the staircase, which is done completely in wood. What you can see here is the K house in Ljubljana. It is situated opposite the building called Mexico, which was made by Slovenian architect Vladimir Šubic. The Mexico house was built in the 30s. Mexico house was a part of social housing program organized before Second World War, the same as Wiener Höfe in Vienna. The sculptures on the both sides of the entrance were made by Slovenian sculptor Lojze Dolinar. Vladimir Šubic often involved sculptors and other artists in his work. Also because of the Mexico house on the other side of the street, understanding the connection between art and architecture was for us essential while working on this project. With this in mind, we designed the front facade facing Mexico building in collaboration with Slovenian artistic group Irvin. These are the type of works that the owner of K House is collecting. He is an art collector, and the works of Irvin represent a large part of his collection. In this photo, you can see the echo of the linear sculpture here in the framed window on the facade of our building. Irvin is the fine art section of the Neue Slowenische Kunst group that was created in the 80s. Today, the group is one of the most well-known and globally recognizable Slovenian art groups. The dialogue between art and architecture can be seen mostly in the design of the architectural volume and the design of the facade. The volume of the building is designed as an anonymous white cube that, like a white gallery wall, creates a neutral background to the works of art. The house acts like a white box that can be found in the modern galleries. But here, we turned it inside out like a sock. To an extent, the architecture retreats into the background and the Irving frames enclose and accentuate the life happening in the apartments. The movements of the residents are reflected in the surface of the windows and so become the content and the topic of the framed pictures. The building is realized as a skeleton of reinforced concrete with prefabricated fillers. This tectonic logic represents the basis of the facade composition. This is the west facade, where you can see the load-bearing construction and prefabricated fillers. We wanted to show the difference between the load-bearing part of the structure and the fillers. So the reinforced facade is an exposed smooth concrete, while the prefabricated fillers are brushed, so the surface is rough. This difference you can see again on this photo. The prefabricated fillers are rough, and the reinforced facade is an exposed smooth concrete. These are floor plans. First, ground floor plan, where we can, actually in this building, there are 10 rental flats and 2-level owner's apartment. In the ground floor, there is an entrance lobby and two apartments. In the typical floor, we have 3 apartments and this double space entrance hall. And in the penthouse, there is the owner's apartment. The entrance to the building is a singular special experience. Stepping through a low wooden vestibule, the visitor enters a monumental multi-level hall. As in old basilicas, the hall is slit through a window under the ceiling. Another photo of multi-level hall, where you can see that we have the window behind this wall, and through this window lights penetrate into the hall. So the last house I want to show you is again made out of concrete. I believe it's also very important to present what our attitude to the architectural materials is. The house stands in a beautiful landscape with a view to the mountains. In fact, from the site, you can see all 3 Slovenian Alps, the Julian Alps, the Karavanken, and the Kamnik-Savinja Alps. This was also the reason to position the house towards the north. As you can see, we framed the most picturesque view with windows. They are like paintings on the wall. For us, the windows in architecture have a double role. On the one hand, they represent the cut in the building membrane, so the natural light can penetrate into the interior through windows. And on the other hand, the windows again re-establish this connection and enable the views to the outside. Here you can see how we enabled the west and east light to penetrate to the interior through roof windows. The main windows are organized on the north side also because on the south side there is a possibility that a new house could be built which would disturb the views. Because of the sloping terrain, we could also play with the height of rooms in the house. Again, the same diagram. The living room presents the highest space in the building due to its importance in the hierarchy of the spaces in the house. The high ceiling also allows the view to the mountains. The dining room has lower ceiling and more horizontal window. But the most important room is the study room, which is positioned the lowest, so when you are sitting and working, you are hidden behind the bookcases. If all rooms are executed in exposed concrete, the study room is done completely in wood. The window in the study room has a parapet made at the same height as the working table. While, for example, the height of the parapet in the living room has the same height as the sofa, so you can literally sit inside the window frame and observe the nature. The hierarchy of different heights is also seen on the facade. So the final form is not the consequence of architect's inspiration, but it is the consequence of other internal logic of the building concept. This is upper floor. From the entrance, you enter the entrance lobby with the staircase at the end and the window overlooking the forest. This is the entrance hall with the view and the staircase at the end and window overlooking the forest. From entrance hall, you step into the living area where you can enjoy the undisturbed view through all three most important windows. View to the living room. A photo of sofa I was already telling you about, where you can literally sit inside the window frame and observe the nature. Another special ambient in the living room. This is the kitchen and the study room, which is done completely in wood. And this is the lower floor where you can find two bedrooms, the master bedroom and the guest bedroom, each with ensuite bathroom. The owners collect different pieces of furniture and paintings. Although we didn't agree with the selection of collected art, we incorporated these pieces in our interior design. We believe these pieces represent the personality of the owners, their history, their memories, and we must have utter respect for this. So as you can see, we incorporated those pieces in the interior design. There is another picture with incorporated pieces in the interior design. This was actually a really slow project. We changed our design several times, also during the construction phase. One of the most important changes happened when we excavated the construction pit for the foundations. We discovered that the rock and the soil under the planned construction had a very specific color. What was even more surprising was the texture of the rock layering. Immediately after this experience, we changed the way we will pour the concrete walls. At first, we wanted to have completely smooth, exposed, fair-faced concrete. But after the excavations, we decided to use the excavated materials. We crushed it and added to the concrete. We poured the concrete in layers, so the upper layer always leaked over the sides of the lower layer. We calculated how much the concrete would shrink in certain time period. Then we tested on the sample how much time concrete needs to shrink from casting panels and allows us to pour new layer of concrete over the lower layer to achieve the right result. Although we made several samples and tests, we were never sure what would come out. Concrete is a beautiful material, but in a way, in most cases, when it is used as exposed concrete, I believe it is misused. When you make it perfectly smooth, without any holes, any cracks and other irregularities, some architects even hide the spacer holes, this doesn't look like concrete. It looks like perfectly made plaster. Primarily, concrete is a material which has a liquid form. Mostly, this characteristic is later hidden. What we wanted is to show this characteristic also in the final appearance of the house itself. We wanted to show that concrete is a liquid material with all the consequences which comes with this characteristic. We wanted to show how this wall was made and what most architects are hiding while making perfect concrete surface. So this is what we did for this project. We left the layers as they were formed during pouring. In this way, we preserved in concrete the way how the house was made. Looking at the house from far away, from the very beginning, when we first came to the empty site, we imagined that the building should look like a piece of rock placed on the meadow, as an autonomous form in the unspoiled nature, like a crystallized piece of nature, like this mysterious phenomenon in the north of Ireland. And I hope this is how it is perceived today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. It was really exciting to hear to your presentation and all the projects you have shown us. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I would say it's time for questions. So, of course, first of all, our dear students are welcome to ask questions, but till they find the right questions, the right question, and the courage, I wanted to say, till they find the courage to ask. Perhaps we can start with some questions with Monica.
I am still amazed. It was such a wonderful presentation.
I would like to touch the last topic, actually, the concrete as a material, because I have to say that actually in all your projects you have worked with concrete, so it looks like it's somehow favorite material of your office. And you said that sometimes it's misused. But I think that this is exactly perhaps why we all love concrete that much, that it's possible to work on so many ways with this material, that it could be, it actually, I think it cannot be misused because it works in all situations.
It's just used in so many different ways.
So is it true that it's your favorite material?
Yeah, it looks like that, yeah. But actually I have to say that we worked a lot also with wood. but actually we experiment a lot exactly just with not just but the most with concrete. And this is why I said that the concrete is a beautiful material. And as you said, you know, you can do anything with the concrete. It can be smooth, it can be rough, it can, I don't know, it can, you can really experiment with this. And actually, this is material that is not very expensive. I mean, when you want to have it as a really exposed, fair-faced concrete, it is very expensive. But if you experiment with other different forum works, like with these boards or, I don't know, anything else, you can really achieve nice, nice texture. And this is what we are interested in.
Am I right with because in order to do such a beautiful layering of the concrete, you had to wait for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, actually we did the sample. The first sample, well, it was not the only one, there were several samples, but we had to wait it was about a few hours, you know. At first we thought that we should wait about 14 or 16 hours, but actually the concrete shrinks really fast. And so I think we waited at the end about 6-8 hours.
Amazing.
And just the whole idea to incorporate the local ground and to turn it into something different, which materializes in the built structure, but it comes from the ground.
Yeah, we were really lucky here with the investor. I mean, the investor has a really important role when designing a house for him. You know, it has to be a part of the design. And here the owners is the professor, and he's I cannot find the word actually. He's dealing with soil. You know, so this is what it was like really.
Pedagogy or something like. Yes.
So that's why he was also interested in this experiment and really, in a way, curious what will happen at the end. So we have really we had the support of the investor. So it was easily to take time for this experiment.
And it reminded me a little bit like the history of modern architecture in 20s or 30s, when the architects started to use concrete, and they actually did similar experiments also here in Bratislava, and then again in 60s. So it's like a revival of this kind of concrete experimentation in your work. This is really exciting. Another question I wanted to ask you, it is somehow connected with ratio of your work, because on one hand you have these let's say developer projects, housing complexes in Bratislava, in Prague, and on the other hand you have these very sophisticated, let's say, private works, and then you have many works for public clients. So these are two types, quite different investors, or three types of quite different investors. So when you compare it, how it is, well, I don't want to ask who was the best one, but
in which area you feel the most comfortable, perhaps?
Well, in everyone. Really, this Slovenia is a small country, and there is, you know, you cannot say that you could be architect just for, I don't know, just for residential buildings or just for the urban spaces. Actually, all the offices are working on several different projects, and this is why why being an architect is so interesting, I believe. I mean, each time when we start a new project, it's a new how they say, a new start actually, and we are really looking forward at every project that we are designing, and maybe the designing, designing the family houses are more interesting in a way that you have a really good relationship with the investor. Actually, we always become friends with the investor, so it's in a way easy to pursue them to some details or to explain them. If I compare this with, I don't know, huge residential building, you know, doing with huge companies like it was the investor of Primite, it's totally different. But from every project we have learned a lot. So I'm really grateful that we are doing so different projects.
Yeah, I must say that you are really lucky that you had this range of projects, because not each architect can say this. It's really
can work in each field.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
architecture.
It's great.
But related to what you just said, we have a question from our student. Alexei says, as you said about your last project, you redesigned it few times. So the question is, how often clients want to change designs during architectural development, and does it cost more for them in case of numerous redesigns? It's very practical, but it's an interesting question from a young architect soon to be.
Yeah. Actually, I believe we need to have as much time as possible during the design phase. And during the design phase, we can change the design several times, and it costs something. I mean, it costs our work, but these costs are nothing compared to the costs of the building. So because of the very intelligent, very open-minded investor and very patient, actually, investor, we could change the design during the design phase. But actually, after the construction phase, we didn't design it. We didn't change it. We just changed the way how the concrete should look. This was the only change during the construction site. And during the construction site, actually, it's really tough, or I would say almost impossible to change the design, because the costs are really could be enormous for this. I don't know what kind of change, but it's actually impossible to change the design during the construction phase.
Thank you. This is what our students are curious about, because it's practical and you have all the experience. We have another question. So Matusz says, firstly, I would like to thank you for the presentation, and then ask, what would you describe as the main effort of your work? What is the main message you want to serve by your work? Because we heard many, but is there perhaps like one strong motto that you always remember when you're designing?
Can you repeat? I didn't hear. What was the main?
The main effort or the main message that should be seen in your work, or something you want to deliver?
Well, I hope the main message is actually how the buildings are incorporated in the not just in the landscape, in the site. So that we always, by designing or in the concept we make, we always try we always try to incorporate the site specific, the context, and this is something which I believe it's the most important while designing the project. And I hope this is something that is the main effort was done always how to, let's say, put our building in the site or in the landscape.
Touch the ground.
This is my husband Tomasz. You know, he's as I told you, he's the part of our office, so he's helping me here with answers.
Actually, when you just said that, I'm wondering, how is it to work with your life partner?
Oh, sometimes it's tough. But actually, in a way, we you know, being architects is not a job actually. Yes, it's also a hobby, you know, or you are an architect all the time. You're an architect in the office, in the afternoon. I don't know, when we travel with our kids or with our friends, you know, you always observe the houses, the nature, you're always see the problems in the spaces or in the outside or whatever. So in a way, we are really lucky to work together, and I would never change it.
But
there is no voice from the other room, so let's hope that your husband agrees.
Yeah, maybe I can ask him.
Well, I wanted also to ask about the experience you have had from the work in Slovakia, because I don't know if the relations in the architectural context and in the building constructions, if they are somehow different, or if there are some similarities when comparing Slovakia and Slovenia. Because why I'm asking, because I always admire the way how you have a special feeling of architecture in Slovenia, I must say. Not only in history, that is understandable, you have, but also the relation from the contemporary architects to the history. They are always speaking about bleaching. Oh, you have not touched bleaching today, so you are the first one. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Special. And also, I must say that the contemporary Slovenian architecture is really of very, very high quality, speaking about concepts and also speaking about the way how it is constructed. So when you entered the Slovakian environment, was it a kind of shock or or not that bad?
Actually, it was not a shock, not at all. It was a really nice cooperation. We have learned a lot because the investor is really a global company. So this project managing was really done extremely good. This is something we have learned a lot, because in Slovenia, this project, we actually don't have project managers, and this is a pity, because every project should have a project manager, and it's not always necessary that this person is an architect. And it's, of course, it's better if it is if he's an architect. But and this is actually what we learned a lot from the investor for the housing Primite. And we also had a very good experience with the local partner. This was the VSA studio from Bratislava. And it was really good cooperation, and without them, I'm sure that the buildings were not be as such as we designed. And during the construction phase, if we didn't find the good, let's say, the good constructors, or we had problems with constructor, we sometimes try to bring the Slovenian one to explain them how they do this job, their job, or to help them in a way. And this was also for them a very good experience. So at the end, I believe not the whole facade, but the main facade was done by a Slovenian company. So actually, it was from both sides. It was a really good cooperation.
Okay, great. And you touched also the local architects. Do you know that one of the partners is now our mayor in Bratislava?
Yeah, I know.
So you should continue with the work for Bratislava.
We would be happy.
Actually, we wanted to do this competition that was in spring.
For the bath.
But we were not able then. But I don't know if it's finished already.
Yeah, it's finished, and I was in a jury, by the way, and we have an Italian architect who won the competition. Yeah, an office woman from Florence.
Very amazing proposal, so everybody's very excited about it. But apparently also Marisha Zorec was
she was competing as well, but unfortunately.
Okay, she didn't come.
There were many
I have not recognized her project, unfortunately.
Okay. So, but I can
sorry. Okay,
I can probably see the winning one on the internet.
Yes, you will see they have a very good presentation, this Metropolitan Institute of Bratislava. You can see all the projects, and it's very good done. So
it's really good, I think, to have the competitions. I believe the competition is really good tool, actually. How to get the best architecture, how to get the best result. This is really a good to have to prepare the competitions.
Yeah, exactly. We have quite a lot of them now, so I hope it will bring the quality that we so much.
It is just recently, so it is this wave of competitions, and we are waiting for beautiful results. But we have another question from a student. It's something that you already partly explained, but he is asking, how often do you travel abroad? Can you take part in projects that are out of Slovenia? Is it possible to make work collaborations between architects from different countries?
Actually, I would travel all the time if this would be possible, but it's not. So we, as a family, we planned each year one trip, which is, let's say, longer, and during the weekends or some shorter trips around Slovenia, The other part of the question was? Sorry.
It was if you can take part in projects that are out of Slovenia. So you have this one in Prague, this one in Bratislava, but maybe he's asking.
Now he's perhaps asking if it's quite common that the Slovenian architects do this kind of collaboration, but I think it is obvious.
Actually, we done abroad, with the projects that we done abroad are in Bratislava, in Prague. We did one competition in Swiss, which we didn't get anything, but it was also a nice cooperation with Swiss architects. And we also did a few projects in Croatia, which is actually very close to us. Otherwise, we didn't do any other projects that are, I don't know, anywhere else.
Okay, I mean, it's like because Slovenian architects are now quite a big topic here in Slovakia because of these competitions that also Slovenian architects took part in. But as you mentioned, the last one regarding the Grösling bath, but there is another one just running the competition for the two important public spaces, Kamenné námestie and námestie SMP, and Sadar and Vuga are actually one of the finalist offices. Now they are only 3 offices left, so we are really confronted with a massive attack of Slovenian architects.
Ah, okay, okay.
So that's great, and
Yes.
this is very good for improving the quality of the local architecture. By the way, how it is in Slovenia? Are there many foreign architects taking part in construction and planning of Slovenian architecture?
Not actually. Actually, the Slovenia, actually, it's a small country, but it has a very it has developed a very strong architectural tradition, and that's why we have also very good offices architectural. So I believe there was some architects who did the competitions, but mostly the Slovenian ones, Slovenian architects won those competitions. So there are not a lot of foreign architects working here.
Okay, so I don't know if it's good or if it's not good, because sometimes it's nice when you have this kind of confrontation and then you have to compete.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's not good. I think it would be better to have other approach or other view. So I believe also also not other, but the architects from abroad will help us and will join the competitions and try to design the better environment.
Yeah, there is still something I wanted to ask you, and it is related with the let's say general architectural context in Slovenia. How is the situation, speaking about the architecture societies, exhibitions, I don't know, this popularization of architecture work in Slovenia right now? Because I remember in the 90s when Desa Gallery started and Andrej Hravsky was very active, so this was something that we admired really very, very much. And is it still that we reach this architectural discussion in your country?
Yeah, actually there is still, and I hope there will be more, even more in the future. Actually, in this situation, due to the COVID, it's not a lot of this discussion, but otherwise we have this Museum of Architecture, MAO it's called, and they are trying to be very involved in the problems of architecture, problems of environment in Slovenia. So I hope they will continue their progress and their work in that way. And DESA is still going on. Unfortunately, Andrej is not there anymore, but there are still exhibitions. I think every month is still one new exhibition. We are actually really lucky to have that. And as I said, I hope this will go on, but otherwise, I think that's the same in other countries. We have to fight in a way with politicians, and with government and everyone, to achieve what we want. Actually, to be involved as an architect in every process of what is going on or what is actually happening in Slovenia. So what can I say? Well, we are trying, and I hope we will still have a lot of energy to do this in the future.
Yeah, I don't want to torture you too much, but there is still something, because I know that Tomasz is involved in teaching.
Yeah.
Are you involved as well? And what about situation with how to call it, schooling of architects in your country? Because there is only one school of architecture, I mean, in Slovenia.
No, there are two, but But do you mind if I ask Tomáš to answer this? Because
I don't mind.
Tomáš? Sorry. Tomáš, there is a question for you.
Hi.
This is great to have you both.
What was the question? I didn't hear the question.
Actually, the question was, how is your involvement in teaching at the Faculty of Architecture in Ljubljana, and how it is in general with education of architects in Slovenia right now?
Yeah, so in our faculty, the things changed a lot because in the last 5 years, most of older professors retired. So I don't know if this is good or bad, but actually most of professors are now between 50 and around 50. So we maybe have 2 or 3 which are older than 60. So it's very young team now working on the faculty. For me, it's always nice to teach, and I teach very. I really like to teach, and also other young teachers now are very enthusiastic. We work a lot on studying to renew the studying program. So there is a lot of things going on in the faculty, but still, you know, our faculty has a long tradition. Probably you know. And it goes from Plečnik to his student Ravnikar, and this tradition you can actually notice in the real space. So our generation, although most of them are educated also abroad or in other countries, at least you know the second part of their studies were made in other faculties. We are aware of our tradition, and we would actually like to make a new school also on the basis of what is the tradition of our school.
Thank you. Perhaps we can develop a kind of collaboration. It will be great to have more, let's say, be more in contact, our two schools, and we will see in the future, perhaps.
Yeah, of course, I can be the contact. We love Bratislava. You know, we fell in love with Bratislava in last 8 years, and it would be really nice to have the contact going on.
So the agreement is done.
But now let's go back to the work and the presentation, because our student is asking another question. What is your opinion on art in architecture? Would you appreciate if contemporary architecture worked more with art? And perhaps he is touching because I noticed that it was also, it was the project in Prague, when there were these statues of cows.
Of horses.
Oh, there were horses.
Oh.
And then another project you showed with the framed windows, which was very sort of different from the rest of the work that you showed us. So how is it to work with these elements of art in architecture?
Who will answer?
You can.
No.
Are you going away now?
No, in Prague, actually, we didn't choose the art pieces. Actually, the investor, or one of the investors, or one of the owners of Penta, is collecting these art pieces, and so we were just faced with them. But actually, in Slovenia, this collaboration was very close with artists. Actually, we left them to. Actually, this is actually exaggeration. If we didn't left them the whole facade, but they where they were also involved in making the composition of the facade. So actually they were quite involved in the process of working, but also, you know, in a way we worked as in a way that we wanted to make a gallery space. So we stepped one step not further, but what's called back. We stepped one step back and made like an ideal environment to expose their art pieces. So in a way, our architecture without the artist group would not be the same as it is now.
So it was actually fundamental for the works.
Of course, it was. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. There is another question. So our student says, thank you very much. I really appreciate your work and I like walking around Primite. And I am happy we have such a great project in Bratislava. My question is, how do you place your style into a proposal of a family house, and how much do you listen to the client? Do you try to persuade them about your way of seeing the life as the best way of living? And perhaps she's touching what she mentioned in the last project, that your clients wanted to fill it with their collection of art or the pieces they collected, but it wasn't something that you would do, but it was still the good combination, or you just took it as another extra layer of your architecture?
Yeah, this is actually a good sentence. The extra layer. We believe we have to listen to the client. We are designing the house for them, and this house should suit them. You know, it will not be the house for me. It will be for the house for them. So that's why of course we have to listen them. But if the client is open-minded, he is always ready in a way to also to listen to us. So I believe we always say that it's a dream team. When you work with the client, that it has to be the same attitude or the same respect on both sides. And if we achieve that, I believe also the architecture will be good, and they will be enjoying in it.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, we never have a problem working with clients. Also, you have to know that you know, in Slovenia we have extremely a lot of architectural offices, probably the same as in Slovak Republic. But here, I mean, there are extremely a lot, and in a way, you know, there are just certain clients that comes to you, and also before coming to us, they know to whom they will come, and in a way, we never had bad experience working with clients. But of course, we are very respectful to their wishes. But in a way, the final result is always work work from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, you are lucky that you have not bad experiences with your clients, because sometimes it's like when the client comes, you cannot see what kind of person it will be. So sometimes it could be a really not a good.
It looks like a match in the beginning, but then it turns into disaster.
Yes.
Sometimes this architect forced to escape from some situation.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know.
I think we really exhausted you.
The whole family, I would say.
No, the kids are at home. They are not in the office.
No, but we are thankful to the lockdown in Ljubljana, because we can have you both, so it's great.
Yes.
So thank you very much. It was really a great pleasure to be with you. Unfortunately, not in Bratislava, not in Ljubljana, but in a virtual space. But I do hope strongly that we will really develop our collaboration, and perhaps you can come to guide atelier or studio in our faculty. We will discuss this with our dean definitely. So let's hope our collaboration will have a future. So thank you very much.
We are sure that it was very, very inspiring for our students. They are supposed to write their reflective essay on what you presented, so I'm sure they have a lot of meaningful and deep thoughts to think about and to write about.
Actually, the final or the finalization of our project is a book which will present your presentations and the reflections of the students, so it will a kind of dialogue, and we hope that you will like it.
And we will send it to you. Forget in the yearbook.
I would also like again to thank you for the invitation, and of course I'm really looking forward to reading this book.
Okay. We will write about it to you, don't worry. It will not be kind of underground.
So thank you again and have a nice rest of the evening.
Yes, have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.